Hey everybody. So I'm going to kind of go through these sprints, especially now that we are kind of dividing up some labor and trying to get more involvement across the board. I figured it would be good for me to kind of go over them and just kind of give you my thoughts and ideas and kind of express what's going on here. And then also the next slide on this slideshow is OTR. I'm going to try and do one OTR for every sprint, just kind of talk through something you might want to add or think about adding into the class. Rather than me just putting it in the slideshow, it gives you more agency, which is really the point of all of this, is how amazing teachers you are, and I want to tap into that more. Okay, so sprint one, term four, our standard narrowed down is students understand what they need to take to graduate their ninth grade after their ninth grade year. So the idea here is that students of all walks of life understand that what they need to do to graduate in 4 years. So if they failed the class, how do they need to what do they need to do to graduate? If they passed all their classes, what opportunities are out there for them? GTI, TA, home release, whatever. And not their 10th grade year, but their 11th and 12th grade year. What electives can they take? But ultimately, what do they need to do to be in that graduating class their senior year? That's the first piece, is what they need to do to graduate. The second piece is about self-advocacy. This was how the standard was packaged. I just kind of took the two pieces and put them together. It's just kind of the idea is, how are they going to advocate for themselves towards that goal and towards future goals? What does it mean to be a self-advocate in secondary school, in trade school, in college, and in a job, and in life? And the standard is 2 weeks long. It's ending on April 22nd. So then the main vehicle of assessment is going to be a board game. So students are going to make a board game, card game, some type of interactive game that other students can play that expresses how a standard ninth grade student, and I say standard, I'm going to get back to that, how a ninth grade student, what they need to do from the end of this year to their senior year in order to graduate. This includes a conversation about credit recovery, of course. So when I say standard student, I mean they should think about all students. What does it mean if you fail the class and now need to do credit recovery? How do you do that? When is the deadline before graduation? So we know that they need to have it done before fourth quarter their senior year. But also, what does it mean if they're passing all their classes? What opportunities can they have? This board game also should include a self-advocacy piece. So some examples I thought of is, like a life board game where they kind of are following little tiles and you're moving your little image, your little guy around or person around. If they land on a blue square, maybe that means they failed the class. And so they have to go in this other route that's credit recovery. And every little dot is something that's happens in credit recovery. And throughout the board game, there can be a red square, and that's a self-advocacy square. And then the team has to figure out how to advocate for themselves in a specific situation. They're drawing cards. Another way could be like an Uno style game where they have a bunch of cards and they're going around in a circle and you're laying cards down that says, oh, next person failed the class. Okay, what are you going to do to respond? And you have a certain number of cards, or you're trying to get rid of your cards in some way. The standard path game is going to be the easiest, and we're going to scaffold that in on the individual days. What are we going to do if students don't get it? So if students receive a 1, we're going to try and start adding in-class time to remediate that stuff if they receive a 1. So if they receive a 1 on board game day, then they're going to just sit down and talk with you. My guess is that's going to not be a lot of groups. But if they receive a 1, then you're just going to go through their PTG with them. You can pull it up, and I can show you how if you have any questions. But you're going to show them their PTG. That way we at least know they've met the minimum standard. They know what they need to do to graduate. And you can have a conversation right then about self-advocacy, because that's kind of what they're doing. Now, if they're cruising, their group's done, their group is really into this, which will happen, I think, as well. You're going to have those students make a review of their board game. So they're going to film a little review of them playing their board game and things they liked and things they didn't, stuff like that. The assessment rubric is on there. Each day is planned out. It's got an opening, engage, elaborate, explain, and closing. These are just ways that I've used to break down individual short pieces of what we might be doing. I will be doing the first, so I'll be doing the opening, which will just be a starter, engage, elaborate, and then I'll be taking a break and then explain and closing. And on my slideshow, the general slideshow, you'll see kind of that broken down. I thought there was one more thing I had to say, but maybe not. So that's kind of the idea here. We're going to be adding a math moment in the next sprint, and that will take place of the closing. So you will find some kind of OTR if you want to add an OTR. I'm going to just briefly talk about one that I'm going to add this sprint on the next slide.